Well, as I said, I think a lot of us consider ourselves lucky to live under the British monarchy. The stability of the system has enabled us to create a prosperous and egalitarian society that is envied by most people around the world. But if you believe the ABC, the royal family has deliberately excluded one group of Australians from this wealth and equality. The ABC reported yesterday, quote, "For more than 200 years, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have made direct appeals to the royal family over past and current policies that have seen Indigenous people subjugated on their own lands," unquote. The definition of subjugate is, quote, "bring under domination or control, especially by conquest," unquote. Well, as they say on social media, huge if true. The facts don't back it up though. If our education system and public broadcaster did their job, every Australian would know by heart the instructions by which Arthur Phillip established the colony at New South Wales in 1788. Quote, "You are to endeavour by every possible means to open an intercourse with the natives and to conciliate their affection, enjoining all our subjects to live in amity and kindness with them," unquote. He was also told that if any British subject should commit a crime against the natives, the subject should be liable to whatever punishment applied under the law. In other words, the natives were considered equal before British law. Phillip himself wrote, quote, "In a new country there will be no slavery and hence no slaves," unquote. British politician William Wilberforce was famous for having led the abolishment of slavery with the Slave Trade Act. But he didn't do that until 19 years later. Australians should be immensely proud that their original colony was founded on such optimistic and humanist principles. But instead, the miserable, sanctimonious drones at the ABC and their counterparts in our historically illiterate education system are determined to convince us that Australia always was, and probably always will be, a racist colonial hellhole. My next guest is Gideon Rozner from the Institute of Public Affairs. Gideon, welcome.
Great to be here as always, my friend.
Gideon, the ABC responded to the death of Queen Elizabeth by reminding us that she symbolised the colonisation of this continent and the subjugation of the natives. Do you think they missed the point?
Look, it's not so much that they missed the point. It is that what bothers me is this ahistorical, ignorant, revisionist history of Queen Elizabeth's reign. For one thing, she was coronated or became queen in 1952. That's a long time after the colonies of Australia ceased to be. But more to the point, in terms of colonialism and the English, look, whatever you think of colonialism and the mistakes that were made during that era of human history, it was a reality. The English were not, or the British, I should say, were not the only people to engage in it. And you have to look at the way in which the British colonisation under the British was so much better in the end than it was under the French or the Belgians, certainly, or the Portuguese or the Spanish or everything else in terms of the infrastructure and the institutions built by the British, in terms of the treatment of the native people, as they were called then, by the British. And the other fact to remember, of course, also, is that looking at Queen Elizabeth, she had more former Commonwealth realms reach independence than any monarch before her put together. The way in which colonialism was actually unwound and closed out under Queen Elizabeth is something that you could note in her 70-year reign. But of course, that's lost on the left-wing industrial complex that wants to see things in a certain way and wants to colour our history and world history, indeed, in a certain way to fit their own ideological pretensions.